In this video, I'm going to be setting up the EmcomIII portable end-fed antenna. I purchased this antenna when I was in Reno a few months back. And what I'm going to show you is how I went through the process of setting it up in the campground in Arizona, a paid campground, and then later in the video, what I went through when we were out portable camping, boondocking as it's called, for 4 days in the Utah desert. We're camping down in Camp Verde, Arizona. I'm going to put up the EmcomIII end-fed antenna and extend this out into the trees that's nearby the camp. And unfortunately, I think the mast itself is going to draw a lot of attention. It actually worked out pretty well. I've got one of the ends out in the trees here, and it's probably like 50 feet, something like that. The other end is going up 25 feet up on the mast that we've got on the back of the RV. And of course, I'm using the 25-foot counterpoise along the ground, I tried different directions going away from the camper. What I didn't like about the antenna is when you unwind the wire from the line winder, the long end, the 75-foot section, it is super springy, and all it wants to do is tangle itself up as I'm raising this antenna up on my mast. Maybe in a future video I'll get to record that, and I'll probably put some swivels on to see if it'll reduce that problem for me. So it could be just that I'm new at setting this antenna up, and time will tell. I did use a tuner inside the RV because of where this antenna is. It's not in the optimal position. Reading the manual, I did set this up as an inverted L configuration. I did have to use a line isolator inside the camper for 80 meters because of the way this thing is set up here. 160 tuned up pretty good. I didn't stay awake long enough to make any contacts on that. 20 and 40 meters worked really good. I made a couple contacts on 40 meters for a net the other day. And the antenna worked pretty good, so I'm expecting on the next couple of places that we go to, I'll get to put up the antenna in a couple of different configurations. So far, so good. It's pretty simple. It's pretty hidden. People don't notice it, and that's a good thing from where we're at. So that's my first initial reaction, my input for this antenna, the EmcomIII. Looking forward to trying this antenna out in different places. If you have some feedback for me on how you like this and where you've deployed this antenna, let me know in the comments down below. As a ham operator, you know that it's hard to get radio time, especially when you have friends and family and you're camping with them. Not everybody wants to hear that radio stuff. It is fun for me, so I want to do it as much as I can while we're out camping. Now, it didn't work out so well in Arizona. It's going to be a little bit better in Utah. The weather was really unpredictable. It was super windy. We had flash floods in the slot canyons that we were at. We did some hiking and some family stuff, so I didn't get a lot of radio time on the radio. I did get to set up the antenna in a couple of different configurations, and that was my main objective. So I'll show you what I did. The trailer is going to be the center. That's where the mast is. And I'm going to put the long end of the antenna north of us, 75 feet away on that rock. And to the south of the camper is where the 25-foot counterpoise is going to go. I'm going to do this in both the inverted V and the L configuration. I've got the buddy pole mast mounts on the back, and my 25-foot portable mast on the back of the camper. Using my rope, I can reel up the center insulator that goes to the top of the antenna. Now, there was lightning and there was rain, and I had to tear my antenna down at least 3 or 4 times. One of the modifications I did on the camper for my pulley string is a cleat. I put just a stainless steel cleat that you get at the hardware store, and I used a pipe clamp. Secured that to the bottom of my ladder in a position where I'm not going to hang up my clothes or do stuff like that under normal RV things that you have to do. And it works out really well for holding whatever it is that I'm hoisting up onto the mast. I'm not using the inverted V in this configuration. It's going to be somewhat of an inverted V with the counterpoise being the opposite end of the inverted V. So we'll see how that does. And depending on how that performs, I may pull it back and try it in the inverted V configuration that they recommend. Something to keep in mind if you're doing an RV configuration is make sure that the ladder that's mounted on the back of your camper can handle this kind of load. I'm using the flagpole buddy mounts, which are meant for having huge flags and taking an awful lot of wind load while those things are up there. And while this pole that I'm using, which is a window washer pole, isn't very heavy, and it does get a lot of wind load, at least on this trip. And even when the wind was blowing, it was good, but man, you don't want to take that risk when you're out here camping and that's all you have for getting on the air. Now, even if I don't get on the air while I'm out camping and activating portable like this, it's good to run through the process of hooking up your antenna, what guidelines work, what mast works, And you want to do this under adverse conditions because in my experience, when you set up an antenna under less than optimal conditions, that thing's going to work fantastic when the weather turns south on you. Kilo 7 Sugar Whiskey. K7 Sugar Whiskey. K7 Sierra Whiskey.
Sierra Whiskey.
Kilowatt 7 Sierra Whiskey 59 Utah.
Kilowatt 7 Sierra Whiskey 59 kilo.
73, thank you.
73.
Now for this last configuration, I'm going to be using the inverted V setup that they describe in their manual. And that's taking the 73-foot length of that antenna, splitting it in half so you have 36.5 feet, and that becomes your inverted V. What I do like about this design is the line winder has a bunch of different holes to hook stuff onto it, whether you're hooking a carabiner, a piece of rope, paracord, or whatever. And that lets me secure it to a rock on this far end, keeping the pressure off of the coax that's tied to the end of the antenna and the wire that's hanging up above. One thing you'll notice when you have an outdoor antenna, if you don't do this, you want to make sure you secure or seal that coax connection that goes into your matchbox. It's not uncommon for me to use a trash bag or electrical tape to seal up a connection, especially if it's temporary when you're going to be operating and it's going to be rainy weather, or even if it's moist overnight. Now, I didn't get to make a lot of contacts in the camper itself, but that's because we did a lot of parks on the air activation, and that was super cool. Those will be videos coming out in the future. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click that like button down below, and if you're new here, well, consider subscribing to get more videos like this. Thanks for watching, 7-3, and we'll see you on the next one.